Many of us serving in worship ministry are doing so with our own personal gear. Every week we're loading in our drums or our guitar amps, and eventually that equipment breaks, either because it gets damaged or just the normal wear and tear that happens when you're using your gear every single week. So should the church be financially responsible for repairs or buying upgrades for the people that serve within the church? Hi, I'm Dave Dolphin at practicalworshipblog.com, sharing ideas, tips, and practical advice for the everyday worship leader. And on this channel, we have weekly videos that help you lead a worship band and be a leader of people. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next video. I recently got this question from Philip Cole. He says this: does your church have a system or policy for assisting in financial support for musicians or digital media people using their own professional equipment, like guitars, amps, cameras, computers in the church? As in, do you help pay for repairs or help buy new equipment and upgrades? And if so, what does that look like? Philip, that is a fantastic question, and I want to address this question from a couple of different angles. Now, the churches that I've been a part of don't necessarily have something formal in writing about this, but I do have some thoughts and a philosophy all about this. If you lead a worship ministry, you should absolutely try and do this whenever you can for the people that serve on your team. Not only are they giving of their time, but if they're using their own gear, they are giving to the church at another level. There's consumables like guitar strings and drumsticks, and then there's the normal wear and tear that happens when you're using your gear week after week, and then there's the potential that your equipment can be damaged or stolen. Now, different churches are going to be able to help at different levels. For example, that small church plant may barely have the budget just to provide the bare essentials for the ministry, like music licensing and organizational apps like Planning Center. And then there's large churches over here that could provide for every piece of gear that you could possibly need. Most of us are going to be somewhere in that middle. So here's a couple of ways that that can play out. One is that you provide the consumables. For your guitar players, you buy their strings. For the drummers, you buy their drumsticks and maybe offer to change the heads on their drums once or twice a year. One thing I've always tried to do for my singers is to have a constant supply of throat coat. Another way this can play out, we used to have someone at a church that I was at that would take the photos for the baptism. She would use her own cameras and her own lenses, and then she would process the photos using her own software. One time there was a specific kind of lens that she wanted. It would make the photos for the baptisms better, but she also wanted it for other kinds of shoots that she would do personally. So the church went out and bought her the lens and gave it to her, knowing that she would use it to continue serving the church, but also it was a way of saying thank you for serving the church. The idea is to look for opportunities to provide for your team. It's a way to help maybe ease some of the burden, but it's also a way of saying that you're appreciated, that what you do to serve the church is valuable. Now, if gear gets damaged or stolen, you have to take responsibility, because nothing says I don't value your commitment than someone in the youth group breaking your guitar and the church saying, sorry, can't help. As the leader of the worship ministry, if something happens on your watch, you have to find a way to make it right, because at this point, it's no longer about the gear. It is about the person who has been faithfully serving the ministry and you coming alongside to help that person. Now, here's the warning I want to give to people that are serving within the ministry that are using their gear, and it's this: you can't automatically place these expectations on your church. Or maybe I should say it this way: if you have expectations about how your gear is to be used, you need to have that conversation up front. Maybe even get it in writing where you and the leadership agree to the terms. But otherwise, serve the church because you're called to serve the church. You're giving of your time, which is valuable, so it would make sense to also be giving of your resources. Approach it empty-handed, because at the end of the day, you are serving God with your time and your resources. You just happen to be doing it through a local church and through a talent that you enjoy exercising. And if you're not a volunteer, meaning that you get paid to play in the band and you get some sort of 1099, that means that you're actually contract labor. And contract labor, by definition, assumes that you're going to provide all the necessary equipment. For example, if someone comes over to your house to fix your dishwasher, you fully expect that person to bring every single tool required to do the repair. And if that person person's drill breaks in the process of doing the repair, there's no expectation on your part to repair or fix that drill. Now, if you feel like your generosity is being taken advantage of by the church that you're serving at, then you need to have that conversation with your leadership, or at least decide if you can continue to serve there. At the end of the day, this is a family, and the person serving within a worship ministry shouldn't be placing unrealistic expectations on it, and the person leading a worship ministry shouldn't be taking advantage of the people that are serving. For more videos just like this one, consider subscribing to the channel so you're notified when the new one releases. And for more practical advice from me personally, there's a small little ebook called 20 Things I Wish I Knew 20 Years Ago. It's the advice that I've learned over the last 20 years of doing music ministry, and you can download it right now for free at practicalworshipblog.com.